That call came in at approximately 5 a.m. on August 28, 2014, from a quiet waterfront neighborhood in Hudson, Florida. 27-year-old Megan Brown was terrified, bleeding, and begging for help while her 4-year-old son Tristan stood nearby. The man she accused, Adam Matos, Tristan's father, and her ex-boyfriend, had vanished into the night. Deputies searched the area but couldn't find him. Over the next week, the house on Hatteras Drive went silent. At this point, neighbors assumed things had calmed down. They hadn't. On September 4th, when police finally entered that home, they would discover a crime scene so disturbing that even veteran investigators struggled to process what they were seeing. 4 people, an entire family, had been slaughtered in their own house, and the man who had threatened Megan just days earlier was nowhere to be found. Before we uncover exactly what happened inside that house, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. These stories matter, and your support helps us tell them with the respect they deserve.
Matos, on August 28, 2014, did Nicholas Leonard put his hands on your throat?
Yes, he did.
Did he threaten your life with a gun?
Yes, he did.
Did you get in a fight with him?
Yes.
Did you defend yourself?
Yes, I did.
Did you kill him?
Yes.
Why?
He tried to kill me.
To understand the horror of what happened, we first need to understand who these people were, because they weren't just victims. They were a loving family who had built a life together, and their story deserves to be told.
The responsibility for the murders definitely belongs to Adam Matos, but the prevention of those murders, the responsibility for that belongs with the Pasco County Sheriff's Department. We feel they dropped the ball.
Greg and Margaret Brown were both 52 years old in 2014. They had spent most of their lives in Pennsylvania, where they raised their daughter Megan and built a close-knit family. Friends described them as warm, hard-working people who would do anything for their loved ones. In 2014, they made the decision to relocate to Florida, presumably to retire and enjoy the sunshine and slower pace of life that Hudson offered. But they didn't make the move alone. They brought with them their daughter Megan and her 4-year-old son Tristan. And they also brought Adam Matos. Megan Brown was 27 at the time of her death. She had met Adam when she was younger, and their relationship had been brief, but it resulted in the birth of their son, Tristan. By all accounts, Megan was a devoted mother who wanted the best for her child. Tristan had been diagnosed on the autism spectrum and was described as largely nonverbal, which meant Megan worked even harder to ensure he felt loved, safe, and supported. Adam Matos was older than Megan by a few years and had a somewhat transient lifestyle before meeting her. Friends and family described him as quiet, maybe even shy, without any obvious history of violence. But those who knew him also sensed something unsettled about him, a man who seemed to drift without clear direction or ambition. Still, when Megan and Adam's relationship ended, her parents made a surprising decision. They invited Adam to move to Florida with them. Why would they do that? The answer was simple: Tristan. Greg and Margaret wanted Adam to remain close to his son. They believed that even though the romantic relationship between Megan and Adam was over, it was important for Tristan to have his father in his life. So they opened their home to him, gave him a place to stay, and hoped that the arrangement would work. For a while, it seemed like it might. The Browns rented a house at 7719 Hatteras Drive, a modest 3-bedroom property in a quiet neighborhood near the water. It was the kind of place where kids rode bikes in the street and neighbors waved hello. The family settled in, and Adam found occasional work, though he struggled to hold down steady employment. Still, on the surface, everything looked peaceful. But beneath that surface, tensions were building. By mid-2014, it became clear that the arrangement wasn't sustainable. Adam wasn't contributing much financially. He rarely kept a job for long, and he spent most of his time at the house playing video games or just existing. Megan's mother, Margaret, grew increasingly frustrated with him. According to those close to the family, she had begun pressing Adam to leave, telling him he needed to get his life together and move out, At the same time, Megan was trying to move on with her own life. She had started dating again, and by August, she had a new boyfriend named Nick Leonard. Nick was well-liked, described by friends as a good guy who genuinely cared about Megan. He had started spending time at the house, and for Megan, it felt like a fresh start. And while everyone else was happy for them, Adam obviously felt betrayed. Friends would later say that Adam had never truly let go of his relationship with Megan. Even though they were no longer together, he still saw her as his. The idea of another man stepping into that role, especially in a house where he was still living, was something he couldn't accept. And then came the night of August 27th, 2014.
That's becoming 911 was the sure emergency. 7119 Hatteras Drive. Spell the street name for me, please. Please, ma'am, can you spell the street name for me, please? Hatteras Drive, Hudson, Florida. Okay, and it's 7119? 7119. And it's going to be okay, 7119? Okay, what is your name? Ian Brown. What is it? What is your first name? Ian Brown, like the color. Okay, Megan, I'm not finding 7119 Hatteras Drive. That's in Hudson? Is it 77? Megan, you got to focus with me, man. Is it 7719? No, it's 70. Hold on a second. 7719. Okay, tell me exactly what happened. We just moved here. Tell me exactly what happened, Megan. My son's dad, I just came home, and my son's dad put a knife to my throat, cut my hand, and my leg bleeding everywhere, and my son's freaking out. I really don't want to do this in front of him, but he just put a knife to my throat. Where is he at? He took off. Okay, when did that occur? I moved into my son's room, and my son woke up. Okay, and ma'am, he cut your hand with a knife? Yes. All right. Bleeding everywhere. Okay, that's the father of your son? Yes. Okay, ma'am, it's going to be okay. I'm sorry, baby. What do you mean? You want to play along the song? Okay, so give me a, okay, you left in a vehicle on foot? On foot, he doesn't have a license. He probably has a shirt, Jamie. He had the bike and he had no shirt on. Okay, hold on, Megan. Hold on a second with me. Hold on with that. I already got deputy dispatch for you, so give me a time delay, okay, when that happened, when he cut you with the knife. He just did it 10 minutes ago. Okay, 10 minutes? Yep. Okay, what is his name? Adam Matos, Adammatos. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Megan. Don't apologize. Do not apologize. It's quite all right. What was going on? You guys had to come here. Okay. You guys kept getting out an argument, or what was going on? We haven't been together for weeks now because he doesn't do anything. And I went out with my friends, and I came home at like 5 in the morning, and he got all pissed off, and he was drinking, and he just put a knife right to my throat. I thought he was going to kill me.
Based on what was heard during Megan's call, she had gone out with friends that night and returned home around 5 a.m. on August 28th. Adam had been drinking, and when she walked in, he was furious. An argument erupted, one that quickly escalated beyond words. Megan then told the dispatcher that during the confrontation, Adam had put a knife to her throat. She said her hand was bleeding, cut during the struggle, and that her son Tristan had witnessed the entire thing. Deputies arrived within minutes and searched the surrounding area, but Adam Matos was gone. Now here's what's important to understand. At that moment, the incident was officially treated as a domestic violence case. Megan's statement documented her injuries, and authorities issued a lookout for Adam. However, it was clear that the situation could escalate the next time Adam was encountered. This became a crucial part of the case. If the officers had examined the situation more carefully, could the tragedy that followed have been prevented? Over the next few days, the house on Hatteras Drive remained quiet. No more calls to 911, no reports of disturbances. To the outside world, it seemed like the situation had resolved itself. But in reality, something far worse was unfolding. On September 4th, 2014, 1 week after Megan's 911 call, police received a request from Megan's step-grandmother, Linda Thomas. She hadn't been able to reach anyone at the house. No one was answering calls. Texts went unanswered. She was worried. 2 deputies were dispatched to the house on Hatteras Drive for a welfare check. When they arrived and knocked on the door, something strange happened. Adam Matos and Tristan were inside the house at that very moment, but instead of answering the door, Adam grabbed his son and fled out the back. The deputies, unaware that anyone was home, left after a brief inspection. They saw no immediate signs of foul play from the outside, and without grounds to force entry, they moved on. But later that day, investigators returned, this time with the landlord's permission to enter the property. And that's when the nightmare began to reveal itself.
The man charged with killing 4 people in Hudson finds out he will face the death penalty. Adam Matos is accused of taking the lives of his ex-girlfriend, her parents, and her new boyfriend.
The moment officers stepped inside, they knew something was wrong. The smell hit them first, a foul, unmistakable odor of decomposition. As they moved through the house, they noticed disturbing details. Sections of carpet had been ripped up, exposing bare plywood underneath. In one room, dog feces and urine were everywhere, as though the animals had been left alone for days. The house was a mess, but it was a particular kind of mess, the kind that suggested someone had been trying to clean up something terrible. But the bodies weren't inside the house. Investigators began searching the surrounding area. One of the officers, Sergeant Babcock, drove slowly down Old Dixie Highway, a rural road just 3/4 of a mile from the house, with his windows down. That's when he smelled it again, that same unmistakable odor. He stopped the car, got out, and walked toward a patch of thick brush about 20 feet off the road. And there, partially hidden beneath branches and debris, was a pile. At first, it wasn't even clear what they were looking at. The bodies had been exposed to Florida's intense heat and humidity for days, and decomposition was severe. Medical examiners would later use dental records to confirm the identities of all 4 victims: Megan Brown, her parents Greg and Margaret Brown, and her boyfriend Nick Leonard. The bodies had been dumped in a heap, stacked on top of one another in a way that suggested haste, desperation, and a complete disregard for their humanity. This wasn't just murder, this was disposal. But how they died was even worse. The medical examiner's findings revealed the full brutality of what had happened inside that house. Megan Brown and her father Greg had been shot to death, but Margaret Brown and Nick Leonard had suffered far worse fates. They had been beaten with a hammer and stabbed multiple times. The pathologist noted that these were close-range, violent attacks, the kind that required sustained physical effort and proximity. This wasn't a crime committed from a distance. This was intimate, brutal, and filled with rage. Investigators also determined that all 4 victims had been killed on the same day Megan made her 911 call, August 28, 2014. That meant Adam Matos had left the house that morning, returned later, and within hours murdered 4 people. But the question remained, where was Adam now? And more importantly, where was Tristan? For investigators, the priority was clear: find Adam Matos and find Tristan. The fear was that Adam might have harmed his own son or that Tristan could be in immediate danger. An Amber Alert-style search was launched, and law enforcement began tracking Adam's movements. What they discovered was chilling. When the 2 deputies had knocked on the door for the welfare check on September 4th, Adam and Tristan had been inside the house, living among the bodies. Security footage and witness statements later confirmed that Adam had spent nearly a week in that house after the murders, going about his daily routine while the corpses of Megan, her parents, and Nick lay wrapped in sheets and carpet in closed-off rooms. During that time, Adam had done something truly bizarre. He had gone on Craigslist to sell the family's belongings. Witnesses came forward saying they had responded to ads for dogs, a television, an entertainment center, even jewelry. One buyer recalled arriving at the house and noticing that Adam seemed desperate to complete the sale quickly. He wouldn't let anyone inside. Instead, he brought items out to the front porch. He offered steep discounts far below market value, as though he was in a rush to get rid of everything. Margaret Brown had been breeding dogs, so there were multiple animals in the house. Adam sold them for $50 to $100 each, a fraction of their worth. He also tried to sell electronics, furniture, and personal items. It was clear he was trying to raise cash quickly, likely to fund his escape. Then, on the night of September 4th, after realizing that police were closing in, Adam grabbed Tristan and fled. He took a canoe from a neighbor's yard and paddled across a nearby canal. On the other side, he called a taxi and headed south toward Tampa. Along the way, he stopped at a convenience store. Security footage captured him with Tristan in tow, looking calm and unbothered. He checked into a motel in Tampa under his own name. That was his mistake. Within hours, law enforcement tracked Adam to that motel. Officers surrounded the building, ensured Tristan's safety, and took Adam Matos into custody.
Adam, what do you say about the allegations against you?
Did you kill those 4 people?
I don't have anything to say right now.
Why did you take Tristan?
Is this all a big misunderstanding?
I don't have anything to say right now.
What were your
Why'd you
plans?
do this?
I don't have anything to say.
What about your son? What are your concerns about him right now?
I love my son and I hope that he's safe right now.
Why did you take him?
He's my son.
What
You know they were
happened?
looking
What
for you?
happened with the family?
I don't have anything to say right now.
Did
Where were you
kill those
trying
4
to go?
people?
No,
You
No,
didn't
you
kill
didn't
anyone?
kill them?
no,
Who did?
I don't know.
Why were you running away?
Where
I don't have anything to say right
Where
now.
were you trying to
going?
go?
Can you tell us where you were going?
Can't tell you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just push through.
What were
Why
your
did you end
plans?
up at the Florida hotel? How did you end up there?
Were you worried about your son? Did you think something would happen to him if you weren't there? What were you trying to do?
Excuse me. Are you glad that your son's safe now?
Tristan was unharmed physically, but what he had witnessed would haunt him and the case for years to come. At first, Adam was brought in for questioning about the domestic violence incident involving Megan. Detectives played it carefully, not revealing that they had already found the bodies.
What happened with that night? I guess there was an argument or something?
We talked about what happened, and we had an argument, and she told me to leave.
What do you mean you talk about what happened? You mean her coming home later?
Yeah, she came home late, and we just talked about it. We had an argument. She told me to leave.
Okay. And during the argument, did either one of you guys get physical with each other? Any kind of physical? I mean, did she threaten you in any way? Did anybody in the family ever threaten you? Here's what we know a little bit about that argument, okay? She's alleging that you threatened her, threatened to even kill her, and threatened her with a knife. That's not true? Okay.
Is there any way you can make sure that my son goes with my mom or my brother?
We can't make any promises right now. We have to see.
Okay.
We have to make sure that they're fit to be.
Okay.
But we'll work on that.
They have rules with that, Obviously, we would like him to go back to Megan. Do you know if that's going to be possible?
I would know.
Okay.
I thought Megan's parents, they stay with them.
You can check. You can call her and ask.
Okay.
Adam denied everything. He claimed he hadn't been back to the house after the argument. He said he didn't know where Megan was. He even suggested she might be staying with friends. But investigators knew he was lying, And eventually, the evidence would prove it beyond any doubt.
I mean, can you tell me anything about the domestic violence? Because, you know, she said that you put a knife at her, backed her into the corner of the room. I mean, what's your side of that?
That's not what happened.
What happened?
We just had a disagreement about something, and pretty much told me to leave, and I left.
What were you guys disagreeing about?
I can't remember, you know, but something, you know, something dumb, probably.
And that was the last time you saw her?
Yeah, that was the last time I talked to her. I was shocked to see the SWAT team there. I couldn't believe the SWAT team was there.
At that point, you didn't know that everybody had been killed up in Hudson?
No, I didn't know.
Did they tell you?
Yeah, they told me. They told me later that day.
And what did they tell you, and how did they tell you?
They were just telling me that, you know, all this stuff happened, and I didn't know what to think. I didn't know how to react to this, you know. This is all new.
When you were with your son and you were away from the mom, I mean, weren't you concerned about whether she was going to be concerned where he was, or, I mean, how did that shake out?
I don't know. Just can't remember.
Do you remember the last time your son saw his mom?
Can't remember. Maybe August 28th.
Have you or your girlfriend encountered anyone that you might consider to be a threat to your family out there?
There was a woman that kept calling and showing up around the house. I don't know what her name is or who she is, but there was like threats being made from this lady, and like letters being sent like back and forth. I guess she left letters or something like that at Megan's job, and I guess the lady called her job, accusing her of different things like taking drugs and stuff like that. So I don't know who this lady is or what her intentions are, but I know that she was pretty much stalking Megan.
One of the most heartbreaking and crucial pieces of evidence came from Tristan himself. At just 4 years old and largely nonverbal due to autism, Tristan had difficulty communicating what he had seen. But child forensic specialists worked patiently with him, and over time, he was able to share fragments of what had happened. Tristan confirmed that he had been in the house when the murders took place. He remembered hearing loud noises, gunshots, yelling, chaos. He said his mother told him to lock himself in his room, and he stayed there for what must have felt like an eternity. At some point, he saw his father wrapping people in sheets and carpet. He knew they weren't coming back. For days afterward, Tristan remained in that house with his father, surrounded by death. The psychological toll of that experience is something he will carry for the rest of his life. Investigators meticulously reconstructed the timeline using physical evidence from the scene. Murder weapons were recovered from a canal behind the house. A hammer, Nick Leonard's firearm, several of Greg's rifles, and multiple knives. Adam had thrown them into the water in an attempt to hide them, but divers pulled them out days later. Blood evidence was found throughout the house, particularly in Megan's bedroom and the garage. Forensic teams determined that Adam had tried to clean up the scene using bleach and other chemicals, but traces of blood remained on the plywood flooring where carpet had been removed. Surveillance footage from nearby stores and gas stations placed Adam in the area during the critical time frame. Security cameras captured him making purchases with the victim's credit cards in the days after the murders. Digital forensics revealed that Adam had been actively using the victim's phones and computers, even posting ads on Craigslist from their accounts to sell their belongings. The silver van belonging to Margaret Brown was key evidence. Investigators determined that Adam had used it to transport all 4 bodies from the house to the dumping site on Old Dixie Highway in the early morning hours of August 30th. Tire tracks and soil samples matched the location. When detectives finally confronted Adam about the murders, his demeanor was unsettling. He remained calm, almost detached, as though discussing something that had happened to someone else. At one point, detectives asked Adam directly where the bodies might be. His response? Scurry County. When asked who police should be looking at, he said, "Both of us," meaning himself and Megan. Polygraph examiners noted that both of those answers registered as truthful, but Adam refused to elaborate. He walked out of the interrogation twice. Later, in a jailhouse interview with a local newspaper reporter, Adam continued to deny responsibility, even though investigators were listening to every word. By this point, law enforcement had more than enough evidence to charge him. On September 5th, 2014, Adam Matos was officially arrested and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. However, it would take 3 years for the case to finally go to trial. In November 2017, Adam Matos stood before a jury in Pasco County, Florida, facing the possibility of the death penalty. The prosecution's strategy was simple: leave no room for doubt. They called more than 40 witnesses, introduced hundreds of pieces of evidence, and methodically walked the jury through every step of the investigation. From the 911 call to the discovery of the bodies to the forensic evidence linking Adam to the crime scene, they built an airtight case. Neighbors testified about seeing Adam acting strangely in the days after the murders. Buyers who had purchased items from Craigslist described his nervous, desperate demeanor. Forensic experts explained the blood evidence, the timeline, and the brutal nature of the attacks. But then came the defense's opening statement, and it stunned everyone in the courtroom. The defense admitted that Adam Matos had killed all 4 people. But they argued it was in self-defense, that Nick Leonard had attacked him first, that Greg and Megan had pulled guns on him, and that he had acted out of fear for his life. To make this argument work, Adam would have to testify, and he did. Adam claimed that he had gone back to the house to collect his belongings and say goodbye to Tristan. He said Nick Leonard confronted him, grabbed him by the throat, pulled a gun, and threatened to kill him. During the struggle, Adam said he managed to grab a knife and stab Nick in self-defense. Then, according to Adam, Greg Brown came into the room with a rifle and tried to shoot him. The gun misfired twice, Adam claimed, and during the chaos, he managed to get control of Nick's gun and shot Greg twice in the back. Megan, Adam said, had been yelling, "Shoot him, Dad! Shoot him!" During the confusion, he thought she was reaching for a weapon, but it turned out to be a cell phone. He shot her anyway. And Margaret Brown? Adam admitted he killed her with a hammer when she came home from her shift at a local convenience store hours later. He said he was out of his mind, paranoid, convinced everyone was trying to kill him. The prosecution tore his story apart on cross-examination. The prosecutor pointed out that Adam pursued Greg and Megan into the master bedroom. He didn't try to leave. He didn't call for help. He didn't attempt to de-escalate. Instead, he grabbed weapons and continued the violence. And then there was Margaret Brown, the final victim. She had been at work when the other 3 were killed. She came home hours later, unaware of what had happened. And Adam, by his own admission, attacked her with a hammer the moment she walked in. There was no self-defense justification for that. After weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for fewer than 3 hours.
A Pasco County jury deciding a convicted quadruple murderer should spend the rest of his life in prison for his crimes. Late this afternoon, the families of Adam Matos' victims spoke out in court about how the 2014 killings have continued to impact their lives, particularly Matos' son, Tristan, who has autism. Other family members have adopted Tristan and say he vividly remembers the day Matos killed his mother.
Guilty on all 4 counts, not manslaughter, not second-degree murder, first-degree premeditated murder, 4 times. But the question now was, Would Adam Matos be sentenced to death, or would he spend the rest of his life in prison? Under Florida law at the time, the jury had to decide whether Adam Matos deserved the death penalty. For that to happen, the vote had to be unanimous. The prosecution argued that this was exactly the kind of case the death penalty was designed for. Multiple victims, extreme brutality, premeditation, and a complete lack of remorse. The defense, meanwhile, asked the jury to consider Adam's mental state, his troubled upbringing, and his love for his son Tristan. When the votes came in, the results were split for Nick Leonard, Greg Brown, and Megan Brown. 10 out of 12 jurors voted for death. For Margaret Brown, 11 out of 12 jurors voted for death. But because Florida law required a unanimous vote for the death penalty, Adam Matos's life was spared. He would be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Before the judge officially sentenced Adam, members of the Brown family spoke. One of the most powerful statements came from the niece of Greg and Margaret Brown, whose mother had adopted Tristan after the murders. "I'm sure you would like to think that with his autism, Tristan would be able to forget what you've done. But I promise you, he is not. He tells us daily what he saw and what he remembers. He tells us, 'Daddy made a boo-boo on my mommy's head, and there was a lot of blood.' He makes my mother promise him when they say their prayers every night that she will never leave or hurt him. He's terrified of you, Adam. You stole his whole world." Those words hung in the courtroom like a weight no one could lift. Adam, for his part, offered a brief apology. He said he hoped the family wouldn't hold on to hate in their hearts. The judge, unimpressed, delivered the final blow. Adam Matos was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. He is currently incarcerated in Florida and will remain there until the day he dies. The story of the Brown family is one of unimaginable loss. 4 people who deserved so much more, Greg, Margaret, Megan, and Nick, had their lives stolen in the most brutal way possible. And the 5th victim, young Tristan, will carry the scars of what his father did for the rest of his life. But he is not alone. Tristan is being raised by extended family who love him deeply. They are helping him heal, reminding him of his mother's love, and ensuring that he knows he is safe now. As for Adam Matos, he sits in prison, clinging to a story that no one believed. His self-defense claim was a desperate attempt to avoid responsibility for what he did. But the evidence, the testimony, and the jury's verdict all spoke the same truth. Adam Matos committed these murders out of jealousy, rage, and a twisted sense of control. He didn't kill to protect himself. He killed because he couldn't accept that Megan had moved on. Now, over the past few decades, family annihilators have become disturbingly common. Time and time again, we've seen cases where an estranged husband turns on his own family, and in the next case, we see a chillingly similar tragedy: the Kaler family murders. Hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. Thank you once again for watching.